Welcome to Real Estate Pulse with Benjamin Gottlieb from Gottlieb Law. Ben, it's been a while since we've seen each other, but a lot's happened. Tell us about the new firm.
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited, Michael. Thanks for asking.
Mhm.
Thanks for letting me be on the show today. Really excited to branch out on my own. Formed the law firm Gottlieb Law. We're going to continue to provide top tier legal services in the real estate space. Right now, we're a team of 4 lawyers, great real estate lawyers, very experienced, handle real estate transactions, real estate litigation, commercial litigation, and business law and estate planning and probate. So we're really excited to continue on.
And the website, it's GottliebLawAZ.com?
Yeah,
Okay, so if anybody needs to reach you, just reach you through the website.
absolutely.
Okay, so now, real estate industry is still going crazy here. Heading into 2023, I wanted to hit you with some topics and tell us what we can expect in 2023 and beyond. Okay, seller financing, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so we're in an interesting, ever-evolving real estate dynamic right now, and things are evolving as such that obviously buyers are having more and more leverage in transactions as the weeks go on. And so with rising interest rates, what we're seeing are this greater need for a seller finance transaction, in particular in the commercial space. And this is interesting because yes, it allows the seller to get their price in a situation where the buyer may not be able to get traditional financing due to the rise in interest rates, but it also comes with some legal traps that I think sellers should be aware of.
Don't like that word traps, Ben.
Yeah,
Makes me nervous.
yeah. I mean, one in particular, Michael, is non-disclosure issues, and the way that can play itself out is a seller will consummate the transaction. They'll loan the buyer a certain amount of money to make the transaction work. And then at some point later on, the buyer may come back and say, hey, seller, you didn't disclose something to me. And by the way, I have leverage over you because you loaned me money and I'm paying you back right now on that loan. And so puts the buyer and the seller in a little bit of a unique situation where then they got to kind of work that out. So we're seeing that play out in some cases right now.
Okay, so now for a long time there, it was a seller's market, but now we're seeing more buyers backing out of deals. What can people do about that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. We are seeing that happening right now in the real estate space. And
Is that both residential and commercial? Are you seeing that?
It is. I'm seeing a lot of it in the commercial space, but also in residential, of course. I think first and foremost, sellers can work to try and protect themselves as best as possible in the contract drafting stage. Of course, buyers may not allow it in this market, but when the earnest money becomes non-refundable is an important thing to pay attention to. If you have a really long due diligence period, for example, in a transaction, and the buyer can get out at any point in time and get back its earnest money, that's probably not a great thing for the seller in this real estate market where we are seeing a pretty healthy uptick in cancellations. And a lot of that is because of economic conditions and because of the interest rates going up higher and higher and real estate prices going down and kind of turning that corner after a very long bull market run.
Okay, non-disclosure cases. I know we've talked about this before. What are you seeing with non-disclosure cases?
Yeah, so I think in a similar vein, because we've seen real estate markets depressed lately, I think it's a little bit of a different situation when you buy a house, it goes up in value, which we've seen for the past several years, in particular during the pandemic. A buyer might be more willing to overlook a non-disclosure issue, right? They go on Zillow or they talk to a real estate appraiser or a real estate agent and find out their house has gone up in value. They feel good about the purchase. They might be willing to overlook a non-disclosure issue and just get it fixed and not, make a big deal out of it. But the situation's different when you buy a house and all of a sudden you find out 4 months later it's worth less than what you paid for it, and now you learn about a non-disclosure issue and you're more likely to try to fight it or try to get the seller to compensate you for that. So consequently, we're seeing an uptick in non-disclosure cases that I think is most likely a direct result of the changing real estate market dynamics.
And do you see that continuing to increase in 2023 and beyond?
I see it going further into 2023, but I do think the Federal Reserve is going to pivot at some point by the end of 2023. I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not an expert on Federal Reserve policy, but I do think if the Fed pivots, also from speaking with folks in the lender community, if a deeper recession does hit, that could actually be good for mortgage rates,
Okay.
which could re-stimulate the housing market. So I don't think this is going to be long term. Does it last 6 months longer or 12 months longer or 18 months? That I don't know. But I do think it'll return back to its upward shape.
Okay, there's a lot of housing developments popping up all over the valley, not a lot of new construction. But you're seeing a lot of construction defect cases. I didn't realize until recently that you had how many years before that you can file a case?
Yeah, so it's interesting, but in the new build space, if a homeowner or home buyer buys a new build under Arizona statutory law, they actually have 8 years to pursue an implied warranty of workmanship and habitability claim against the builder. If they learn about a construction defect in the 8th year, it's actually extended one additional year, so it can be up to 9 years.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so there is that long statute of limitations. Obviously, it's a new house, so the expectation is it's going to be built up to code and standard. But the flip side with these construction defect cases is you have what's called the Purchaser Dwelling Act under Arizona statutory law. That sort of slows new homeowners down. You can't just rush and file a lawsuit against the builder. You need to proceed in a very particular way. You have to give the builder a notice of the defects and a full opportunity to repair those defects. So what we're seeing is a lot of cases, but a lot of them get worked out. Of course, that those statutory limitations, I think, help the parties get those cases resolved, which was the intention behind the Purchaser Dwelling Act. But what's interesting is we're seeing a lot of these cases. I don't know if it's from all the rain, and maybe that's leading to some more foundation issues, as I understand it, with the change in moisture of foundations that are built at homes. But nonetheless, we are seeing a lot of construction defect cases here around the valley.
Okay, I have a question about that because I get stuff in the mail all the time from different law firms saying like you want to join a class action suit. So are these defect cases mostly class action, or are they just individuals filing suit?
Yeah, no, good question, Michael. So actually, it's both. So in a lot of our cases, because it's against the builder and because the builder most likely built a lot of homes in a particular community, it's not pertinent to only one home, right? So you'll see a recurring issue. It may be actually due to the soil conditions in a particular community, and so you're seeing this recurring construction defect issue. It could be, like I said, it could be a foundation issue, another structural issue that is recurring throughout the entire community. And so, yeah, there are law firms in town that will take that on a contingency basis. They'll represent a number of homeowners in that community. But then what we're finding is there's also homeowners that like that individual attention. They want their case to be prioritized. They don't want to be lumped into the whole. So what we've seen are both. We're seeing people that want to be individually represented, and we're also seeing people that don't mind falling into the class.
Is there a right way to go there? Is it better to have an individual suit, or is it better to be part of a class action suit?
That's another good question. I think it's a case-by-case matter. In some situations, it might be better to have individual representation. In my view, your case will get better attention. It could get resolved much quicker. From the builder's standpoint, if they're dealing with an entire class of homes, they're not going to prioritize repairs at any particular home. They're going to figure out the most logistical way to proceed in light of the entire class. And so I think, but on the flip side, that's a contingency arrangement. So that helps the client avoid paying hourly fees. So I think it can make sense for some people to do a class action route, and it can make sense for others to want that individual representation.
Okay, last topic I want to bring up, and I know I've hit you with a lot of stuff today, but short-term rentals. We've got the Super Bowl coming up. I know a lot of people are talking about, hey, I'm going to rent out my house. I'm going to make a fortune during the Super Bowl. But a lot has happened in that space. Can you talk a little bit about what we can expect from a legal aspect with short-term rentals going into 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier this year, the Arizona Supreme Court came down with an opinion that has really changed the HOA space in terms of how an HOA can regulate its community. Essentially, a homeowners association regulates its community through the governing documents, the CC&Rs, and most people know about that. And most CC&Rs have a majority provision where you can get a majority amount of the votes and then amend the CC&Rs. In Arizona, under state law, cities and towns cannot prohibit the operation of short-term rentals. And so really that just leaves HOAs. And before this year, HOAs have been regulating short-term rentals by amending their CC&Rs. And so a majority of homeowners within any particular community will band together, cast a vote, and amend the CC&Rs. And in some cases, they may prohibit short-term rentals altogether. In other cases, they'll just regulate them. And that has been deemed to be valid and enforceable under Arizona law. Earlier this year, the Arizona Supreme Court issued the Callaway case, and that case really changes things because now the HOA may not be able to so easily amend the CC&Rs, and it's going to be more heavily scrutinized by courts. And if the HOA amends the CC&Rs to prohibit short-term rentals, and a court later finds that that amendment was not foreseeable or that the homeowners in that community did not have fair notice of that amendment, it's going to be deemed invalid. And this new,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. And this new law is going to apply retroactive as well. So even prior amendments that were made prior to the opinion could be subject to legal attack. And so from that standpoint, we are going to see probably a lot more groups of people challenge CC&Rs that prohibit short-term rentals. So we're going to see pro short-term rental folks coming to court and pushing it back against their HOAs to continue to operate their short-term rentals. So if anything, I think we're just going to see more short-term rental activity as we move forward in light of the Callaway case and in light of the limitations placed on HOAs moving forward.
It's such a big economic piece in Arizona right now, so it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But Ben Gottlieb, it's been a great real estate pulse with Ben Gottlieb, GottliebLawAZ.com. Ben, any last words for anybody? What can we expect in 2023? Biggest legal issue to watch?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the short-term rental space. Just with the Callaway case, it's already taking and having a big impact with subsequent cases that I've been following. And I think a lot of people are going to be challenging their CC&Rs that live in HOAs, not just short-term rentals. I think it's going to expand even beyond short-term rentals into other HOA regulations. So to me, I think the Callaway case is going to have the biggest impact moving forward in the foreseeable future.
Great. Okay, Ben Gottlieb, one of AZ Business Magazine's top 100 lawyers in Arizona, GottliebLawAZ.com. Ben, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Michael.